Is your mic up? Right mic up?
Hey. Welcome, everybody. It's Wednesday. We go preps to Olympians. That's right. We put the focus on anywhere from high school to Olympic athletes, administrators, and those that run our sports. I'm repping my boy, Jared Goff, quarterback of my Los Angeles Rams. We're going to focus on him when he was at Marin Catholic High School. Also repping my boy, Russell Westbrook. And he, actually played basketball at Lusinger High School, Lawndale, not far from where we are right here. And finally, Klay Thompson from Santa Margarita High School. You know him as a three-time NBA champ with the Golden State Warriors. So all three of those, we're going to see some vintage from the vault high school footage. And we're going to break it down a little bit with our boy, Jake Downey. We're also going to hear from Adam Wald from East Bay. I say we start the show.
You want people to text in and all?
Oh, yeah. People, anybody here for, I know many of those, all those high schools like retweeted and seem to be in on social media. So if you'd like to get in on the public chat, we'd be glad to rep you up on the screen. Okay, we can start it. I'm a Venice, California-born, Los Angeles-based sports fan. One that has played, coached, announced, and promoted sports my whole life. My love affair with sports started in my own backyard and has led me to this podcast. Thanks to the support of the Amateur Athletic Union in East Bay, I'm excited to bring you Sports Stories with Denny Lennon.
Sports Stories with Denny Lennon aims to bring its subscribers interesting, unique, and uplifting stories. You can find us at sportstoriespodcast.com. We drop audio, video podcasts every Thursday and go live at 5 on YouTube 4 nights a week. That's Sports Stories with Denny Lennon.
Coming to you live from Los Angeles, it's the top-rated show in the Centinela Adobe corridor, operating in the shadow of LAX out of the 7428 studio, where Jimbo is at the controls and Buck takes a nap until he's got to take a crap. It's SSDL live at 5. That's right, the top-rated video podcast in the Centinela Adobe corridor, and deep beneath is the vault, and that's inside like the catacombs that are buried beneath, and we pull out some vintage high school stuff like we will today. First, I want to welcome my family because I know they're here. I know my family's here because the ratings go through the roof. Hey, how about Lion Pride, everybody? My St. Mark people, you're here. My VBC had another great show. Way to go, Ray Castro, the box cobbler. He put one together last night as a producer. Way to do it. Ska, a lot of us know him as Ska. And my AAU people got to be here. We got some big announcements coming up from the AAU. Probably in about 3 shows from now. We'll do it on this Wednesday show. Hey, top 5 states outside of California that are supporting the show. 1, Maryland. What? How did Maryland get in here? I know. On Friday, Brendan Abadejo. My wife didn't think I'd remember. Abadejo, he'll be on. He's Super Bowl champion with the Ravens. He's also played at UCLA. He'll be on the show, so that must explain them. Connecticut checks in. Oh, yeah, Dan Coonan, the author of Presidential Spirit's going to be on Friday, so that helps. All right, Texas, Florida, and the number 1 state outside of California supporting the show, Ohio. They always do it. Way to go, Ohio. All right, I'm liking it. We're off to a fast start. I think right now we got to bring in a sponsor of the show, or perhaps we do a video. Which one?
Every time.
Whatever.
I just wish you'd read the notes.
Shout outs, roll call. Oh, yeah, up this week. Let's go.
Yeah.
Up this week. That's my favorite segment. How could I forget? Okay, Wayne Boley, part 3 drops. The former Loyola University outstanding basketball and volleyball player, and then went on to a prestigious law career, which, coming full circle, he represented the university in the Hank Gathers case. We dive into that. And coming up Friday on our happy hour show, Dan Coonan. That's right, St. Bernard High School grad of 1980, an athletic administrator at many schools. Dan, now an author, Presidential Spirits, a book which I think any and everybody will enjoy, not just historians. There's a good through line with baseball in it, and we look forward to having Dan on the show. And then, of course, Brendan Abadejo. Yeah, I just blew it already. Dejo. I'll get it down by Friday, I'm sure. But Brendan is really an interesting fellow. You ought to look him up, and we can't wait to have him on the show. But as I mentioned, UCLA, a Super Bowl champion, and a man who stands for equal rights for all. And so Brendan will bring a lot to the show on Friday, and we're stoked about that. That's going to be some fun. Okay. See, I was just so excited to get to my boy Adam. You know, Adam has been on the show for a while. Hey, that's Dan Coonan's book right there. Highly suggest everybody read it. Yes, I am only about halfway through, but I will get there by Friday as well. All right, let's bring our boy Adam Wald in from East Bay. What's up, Adam?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good, man.
Good.
I wanted to comment once again on that fine sweatshirt you got going. What's that from the East Bay collection?
This is part of the new Olympic collection, unfortunately.
Well,
No Olympics this year. So I'll be sporting it next year. But, you know, it was Memorial Day this past weekend. And, you know, got to show pride in the stars and stripes. So
I got my Memorial Day hat from the Rams on. Yeah, you just get an extra year of wear out of that. That's all right.
I do. It's great.
Yep. East Bay, proud sponsor of Sports Stories with Denny Lennon, the podcast and our series of live shows. And they were also a sponsor of the AAU Sullivan Awards. And I think everything's going well so far.
Yeah, I think it's been a great partnership with AAU. We're excited about, you know, partnering with you here with Sports Stories and getting ready to launch a team store, an online store for you all, which I think will be great. People can start, you know, getting out there sporting, especially in some of those places like Maryland and OHIO.
That's right.
With the gear, right? So we're excited about that. We should have that up and running for you all in the next probably 10 days.
Love it.
You know, that'll be good. People can start buying that, and they'll get they can order it, go directly to get shipped directly to their homes. So it should be nice.
That's the beauty of this, right? So we'll have a store up. We'll have some Sports Stories gear, but we could also do some specialized gear. Let's say like our Tuesday night show, the VBC, or perhaps some AAU gear or whatever else, you know, we're covering on the show. We could do that with a little advance. But the beauty of this is they're going to order off of the store. They'll get the link off our website, and they'll just be direct shipped to them.
Yep, they can actually do it if they're on their iPhone, their iPad, an Android phone. As long as they have access to the internet, it's basically the Amazon model, right? They're going to go online, they're going to order, pick out what they want, pick their size, put it in their cart, and put it on their credit card, and off it goes. It should be pretty easy.
That'll be great. Could they get toilet paper from there, Adam?
You know, that could be the next thing with everything going on.
Okay. All right. Good. I'm thinking this. And I mean, it could be Sports Stories with Denny Lennon branded toilet paper.
Well, yeah. And we're announcing tomorrow. We're probably coming out in the next couple of days. We're going to be selling masks too. So
wow. Okay.
We have the ability to, you know, especially with everything going on nowadays in the schools, and we're, you know, everything's up in the air still with high schools and colleges to an extent. You know, everybody's looking for masks, especially a lot of these districts. So something new.
We'd love to carry whatever we can on the store, and we're proud to partner with East Bay. It's a good thing, and we'll try to keep that store stocked, and hopefully people will go there and get some of their gear.
Yeah, we're gonna have product on there for everybody: men, women, youth as well. Different color, you know, some different colorways, but you know, the everyday wear that everybody wants. You know, polyester T-shirts, some cotton T-shirts, hoodies. Long sleeve, short sleeve, you know, things that I think, again, everybody would want to wear, especially in Southern California here. And then for those markets that do get cold, those hoodies will come in handy.
Would I be able to get a polyester powder blue tuxedo like I wore to my prom?
With the ruffled feather shirt?
Ruffled, yes.
We might be able to do that.
Okay. See, I knew it. I knew we partnered with the right people. Excellent, Adam. Well, you know, we have a crowd here, and we also have a different crowd on Friday night. So I know you're going to come on Friday night, and we can kick it around a little bit with our guests there. But I want to bring in a guest today, and before we do, we're going to show you. And so if you'll stick around, we're going to show you who we're covering today. The three great athletes that are doing great things in the pros that were something else in high school as well. So before we bring on our guest who actually put these interviews together, let's take a look.
Great.
All right, that was just a little tease. Now we want to bring Adam back, and we're going to bring in our guest tonight, Big Game Jake Downey. What's up, JD?
Hey, how are you, Denny? Thanks for the introduction.
Excellent. Look at this. You is that the closet that you pulled the videotapes out of that's hanging out behind you?
This is my garage, which at La Casa de Downey, it's maybe the only place that I can get almost quiet. I know when you and I have talked on the phone and the dogs start going berserk, you can't take it. And well, who could? Because it's dogs times 3 sometimes. Yeah. So I get out here and there's comparative quiet. I know you may not believe this, but I did clean up for you.
Yo, I could tell.
Not just me, but the garage.
Yeah. Oh, I was talking about you. Adam actually has a new puppy these days, so he's living in your world, Jake.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's talk in a couple of years. It's like raising a baby.
6-month-old puppy.
Yeah,
it is like having a baby. Oh my god.
Yeah, although you're not setting away a $529 to send that thing to college.
No.
No, not quite yet. We don't know where this is going to go. We're not going to be a genderist here, or rather a speciesist. Hey, Jake. Adam. What kind of dog did you get, by the way?
We got a Chorky. So it is a Chihuahua and a Yorkie. So he's going to get to about a whopping 8 pounds.
Do you have to you put tequila in the bowl?
Yeah, he's got the yappiness of that Chihuahua. So
gotta keep him quiet at some point. Hey, Adam, before I move along here, I did get somebody in, one of the producers of our show last night. He wanted to know if there's going to be muscle tees. That's Ray Castro. He wanted to know if there's going to be muscle tees carried in the online store.
We can actually add in muscle tees, so we'll put in the sleeveless legend tees in there. So there we go.
Hey, what about a mankini?
That has been talked about. Believe it or not, people have asked about that. So something we might want to look into.
No, not for me. I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah.
Adam, you've seen your share of high school games. Did you catch any of these athletes that we're focused on tonight while they were still in high school?
You know what? Actually, I did with Russell Westbrook because I was working at UCLA at the time, and then when Russell came to UCLA and went to a Final Four there with him and the team, so it was pretty cool to see. Yeah.
I caught him at Lusinger High School too, and I thought he was really good, but I also thought he would do so well in track. Like I was like, wow, that guy's like such an athlete. I didn't know that his future was going to be what it is in basketball. I was calling.
Nobody did.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, and then my wife grew up in Marin, so she grew up. She went to Branson, the Branson school, which but a lot of her friends were at Marin Catholic. So seeing Jared, I think I went to a couple of games when we were up there visiting. So
nice. Well, we got some good footage on that. Now,
I was going to tell you before I go. I did a story that was the last thing that Pat Summerall voiced before he passed away, the East Bay All-Stars. And it was a barnstorming troupe of 13-year-old baseball players that spent about 8 days in the Northeast from Boston down to D.C. playing local competition. And I made a half-hour show about it, and it was sponsored by East Bay. And other than being on a bus with 13-year-old boys, it was an awesome week.
That's awesome.
Wow. All right, Adam. Jake, did you want to ask anything that you would want Adam to stock into the store before we let him go? Besides the mankini, of course.
San Diego State stuff, Dodger stuff.
Dodger stuff we got.
Laker stuff.
I got San Diego State. Yeah, Laker stuff we've got. I was actually disappointed because I couldn't even get, and I work for the company, I couldn't even get the Nike Ben & Jerry's Chunky Ducky Air Force Ones that just came out and released. I'm like, I couldn't even get in on it. I was willing to pay full price. Couldn't even get them.
Okay.
Yeah, I bet with that doc on ESPN, there's been a resurgence in interest in Bulls stuff, huh? In Nike, vintage Nike stuff.
The vintage Nike stuff, the original Jordans. We carry a lot of Jordan product, and it's been going off the. You can't even keep it off the shelves long enough to try and even put it up on the website. It's going quick.
Unreal.
I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for Nike after reading Phil Knight's autobiography.
I thought it was a great book. I liked it.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It just Generally, I like to read about the formative days of iconic American companies, like how they got to where they got back when they were nobodies. I think that's fascinating in almost any field, but something that everybody knows about, like Nike, is doubly interesting.
Well, and especially when you read that book, and Phil Knight was the one he didn't want to call it Nike. Everybody else did. He was the last one that wanted to call it Nike. Yeah. So that whole story was just interesting.
And we picked up Adam when he was nothing but Sports Stories with Denny Lennon has raised him up. Now he's like the Western Regional Manager for East Bay. So we feel good about that. We'll start putting the book together, make the book available on our online store. Maybe, Adam.
We could talk about that.
Okay. Good. Adam, hey, buddy. So Friday night you get Casablanca is going to hook you up.
Awesome.
And you come back on and we'll kick it around with our guests and pump the store a little bit more.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
You know it, buddy. You know it.
Okay.
All right. Later, buddy.
Take care.
Big game. Let's dive into some of these reports you did. I think the first one we're going to go to will be our guy, Klay Thompson. Let's roll the video, and then you tell us a little bit about this interview.
Sure. This special feature is brought to you by Old Spice. Spray goodbye to boyhood and smelcome to manhood.
Well, people think I'm exaggerating, but I kind of figured it out, or I could see it in probably 7th, 8th grade, when I could see how advanced he was as a player and how much he understood how to play the game, and he had the basketball skills and fundamentals to go along with that.
And that's not just any proud papa talking. First overall NBA draft pick, two-time NBA champ, and Lakers radio analyst Michael Thompson has watched a lot of basketball and seen a lot of great players. But back then, he might have been the lone voice predicting NBA greatness for his son, Klay.
How much he respects the game and how hard he works. He really has a good work ethic and wants to succeed at this, and he really respects his opportunity.
Klay's journey to NBA acclaim began in earnest at Santa Margarita Catholic High School in South Orange County. He got everybody's attention, leading the Eagles to an improbable state championship in 2008. Craig DeBusk was an assistant on that team under his dad, Jerry, and Craig says that Klay's work ethic was legendary even as a high schooler.
He was always a guy that, never left the gym. He worked on his shot, and he just, put so much time into the game.
Despite the work ethic, the skills, the bloodlines, and the team's success, Klay was not a five-star recruit. He had offers, but not from everywhere.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised. A lot of people, looking on the outside from him, looking at, his game, wasn't, heavily recruited with the Pac-10 where he really wanted to go, and Washington State was all over him.
So Klay chose Washington State, and in 3 years in Pullman, he dazzled pro scouts enough to become a 2011 NBA lottery pick, going to the Warriors in the 11th spot.
I really wasn't thinking about him playing in the NBA. So, people have asked me, are you surprised? Well, when I look back on it now, probably it's easy to say, no, I wasn't surprised. But yeah, I was. Now, he's taken another jump. And, when I watch him play, and I've gone to watch him play a few times, he's just getting better and better. And I know he's working. He's working on his game. It's not just complacency. He's just working to get better. So he's very driven.
This special feature was brought to you by Old Spice. Spray goodbye to boyhood and smelcome to manhood.
Wow, Jake. Before we talk about the 3-time champion, 5-time NBA All-Star, tell me a little bit about your tagline with Old Spice. Spray goodbye to boyhood and smelcome to manhood, something?
Oh, the things we do for sponsors, huh? That was just a mandatory line that I had to read at the top and bottom of that piece. But you know what? If Old Spice was going to pay for me to go do a story on Klay Thompson, even if I didn't get to talk to Klay, it was pretty cool that I got to talk to Michael. And I have to admit, that was the first time I ever got an interview off an iPhone that I was able to put on the air in a piece, either that would run on the web or on TV. I think it was 2013 or 2014, and it was just kind of when iPhone cameras were getting video that was acceptable. But I have to say, I had bought a ticket to that Laker-Clipper game that night. If I had tried to get credentialed from John Black of the Lakers with a big camera and a crew, Max Preps, who are you? This high school outfit? No, get out of here. But because I had an iPhone and because I knew John Ireland, the Lakers radio guy, and just sent him a text, hey, I'm hoping to ask Michael a couple questions about for a piece I'm doing on Max Preps. He said, well, just be sure you get over here 5 minutes after the game's over because Michael leaves right after we do our post-game chat. And Michael couldn't have been more gracious at the end of a long day and facing a long drive back to South Orange County. We talked. There was music blaring in the background. I thought it was going to be bad audio. And, oh, man, I've blown my chance to talk to Michael Thompson about Klay Thompson. Turned out to be perfect. I mean, you could hear everything he said.
Absolutely.
It worked out great.
And like you said, he's more than a proud pops. I mean, he's been around forever. He's got an incredible background. #1 pick in the draft. Just that whole journey, and then he willingly played behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to be part of a championship program or championship team with the Lakers.
Well, and to that end, speaking of Ireland, I took my boy Charlie with me to go see a documentary about Michael that was commissioned by the Bahamas Tourism Commission, and it was an awesome thing. And the two things that I'll leave you with about Michael Thompson, the first is awesome because here he was a 6'10", 6'11" kid who had finished high school in the Bahamas, and a high school basketball coach in Miami had heard about this kid named Thompson over on the islands, but it was a different Thompson. And so he flies over from Miami and he gets in the taxi and he says to the driver, I'm trying to find this really tall kid named Thompson who plays basketball. And the taxi driver says, well, there's a really tall kid named Thompson who goes to my church. I'll take you to his house. And so the coach from Miami shows up at his house, and it turns out to be the wrong Thompson. But he gets a look at Michael Thompson and says, hey, I'm doing good things at this high school in Miami. I'd love for you to come on over, and I think you could get a college scholarship. And Michael Thompson says, well, thanks, coach, but I just graduated high school here in the Bahamas. And somehow the coach persuaded him and his parents to let Michael come over to Miami and go to an additional year of high school after he'd finished high school. And then Michael shows enough promise to get offered a scholarship by Minnesota, where he's leaving the tropics and heading to, the far north, where he's going to freeze his everything off. And in 3 years or 4 years, he becomes the #1 overall pick.
Wow.
And all that from a taxi driver knowing the wrong Thompson family in the Bahamas.
What a trip.
Who knows what happened to the other Thompson kid?
Right. That kid's still driving a taxi there. Wow, yeah. That's pretty cool. Hey, so Klay, similarly developed late, not unlike Russell Westbrook or even our other feature tonight, Jared Goff. But Klay did show a lot of promise as his team won the state championship at Santa Margarita. In fact, he dropped like 7 threes in the championship game or something ridiculous.
Oh yeah, he was money. And that was a year that it was kind of a bummer for me because I was producing and reporting and hosting the show about high school sports. It was on KCBS and then KCAL, and it went away. And then with Max Preps, I didn't cover that year of 2008. So that footage that they got somewhere else, and then had me do this piece in like 13 or 14. But I remember the name Klay Thompson. Then he went to Wazoo, and then I think he got into a little bit of trouble, and it didn't seem to hurt his draft stock. And then he ends up in the league, and he doesn't just end up in the league. He ends up on one of the most iconic teams of NBA history, and he's maybe the 1A to Curry, and is a crucial piece. The other thing I was going to tell you about Michael, and this is pretty cool, is that I think Michael's dad is in his 90s, might have passed away recently. But when I saw this doc about Michael, he said that his dad, Klay's granddad, had gotten a satellite dish and was waiting up till 10:30 every night in the Bahamas to watch Klay play in the NBA on West Coast games. So that he talked with great appreciation about how not only did he get to play in the league and that his son got to play in the league and that his son's on a great team, but that his dad is still around to enjoy his grandson playing in the league, and just appreciating the continuity of families and all that brings was just so nice to hear. I don't know if the elder Mr. Thompson is still around, but I just wanted to relay that story because it got me just thinking about Klay's grandpa watching him in the Bahamas.
No doubt about it. And you know, one of the things too, we did a show on Paul George out of this Vault series. That was our first one, and he barely fit into his jersey, and you could kind of see this about Klay at some point. You know, it's like his jersey's hanging off him a little bit, like you would, you know, when you turn those jerseys over at a Catholic school. But I'm sure they've turned it all the way up on the wall now. But he certainly did come into his own at Washington State. I mean, he was a really good all-around player, especially on defense in the Pac. Was it the Pac-10 or Pac-12 at that time? Because this is about 2013 or 14.
Yeah, it might have made the transition while he was there.
Yeah.
I still have a UCLA Pac-10 T-shirt in my closet, so you can tell it's getting older.
Oh, unreal. So that's our focus on Klay Thompson. Big Game. We're gonna take a quick commercial, and then we'll come back with our next two athletes.
Awesome.
Okay, let's step aside for our sponsor. Well, not East Bay. We already talked to that guy. Let's step aside for our sponsor, Casablanca.
Vámonos a Casablanca, vámonos a Casablanca, la comida para la familia. Vámonos a Casablanca, vámonos a Casablanca.
Sports Stories with Denny Lennon aims to bring its subscribers interesting, unique, and uplifting stories. You can find us at sportstoriespodcast.com. We drop audio, video podcasts every Thursday and go live at 5 on YouTube 4 nights a week. That's Sports Stories with Denny Lennon. Now you are.
I'm like, okay. We put the focus on high school to Olympic athletes on this channel right here, this show, Jake, including the Sullivan Awards, you know, backwards to our high school athletes. And that's one of the fun things we try to do is to also bring in people like yourself, Randy Rosenblum, Eric Sondheimer, David Wharton. These are people who are journalists that are in that game. Talk a little bit about going to high school games and how do you like notice somebody that's going to go big time. I remember going and seeing Baron Davis and watching him in high school. And I went, that's a pro. Like I said, that guy's a pro, but I didn't think that about Russell Westbrook.
No, he was a late bloomer. Part of it was that it took him until college to really reach his full height. He had the hustle, he had the determination, he had the raw skills, but he also grew into his body as time marched on. And then he was certainly a much better pro than collegiate or prep. So there are some guys who take you by surprise. And you mentioned Paul George, who was another guy who was a late bloomer. I mean, nobody would have predicted for him stardom in the NBA from getting a look at him in high school or even at Fresno State. You know, I would guess that he was pegged as a middling pro prospect coming out of Fresno State. Sometimes guys just have greater determination and they have one skill that they can exploit. And so the NBA is good about recognizing that guy can do one good thing. And working on that, I guess in these days of enhanced numbers and being able to analytics, you know, you can identify and exploit somebody's one skill. I don't know if that's maybe George or Westbrook. I mean, Westbrook as a point guard has, you know, had unbelievable success, and all you need to say is that he averaged a triple-double for the year. That hadn't been done before.
It had been done, Oscar Robertson in 1962.
Yeah, and like I said, it hadn't been done before.
Yeah, right. I mean, and that was a different NBA then. But Oscar Robertson was a different type of player. But then, you know, you fast forward to what Russell could do. and unbelievable. But he does show some of that athleticism here in high school. So we're going to look at that video right now.
Russell Westbrook grew up in the shadow of Hollywood, and his story of perseverance is worthy of the golden screen. This special feature is brought to you by Old Spice. Spray goodbye to boyhood and smelcome to manhood. Westbrook was a late bloomer, entering Lusinger High School as a 5'8", 140-pound freshman before finally earning a starting spot during his junior year.
We called him in one day and asked him to practice, and he didn't have his shoes, so he had these low-top Air Force Ones, and he just came to practice in those. And we had Darrell Wright on our team, who was also in the NBA, and a bunch of other 6'8", 6'9" guys. And they just couldn't believe that this little kid who was just so small was trying to take balls out of their hand and trying to push them out the way. And, you know, he always had a heart that was super big and always willing and ready to compete.
Now Beverly, here he comes, flying in for the slam dunk.
After growing to 6'3", Westbrook averaged 25 points and 8.7 rebounds in his senior season, while leading his team to a 25-4 record.
He has something to prove. A lot of people mistake the chip on his shoulder for his personality. Russell is a great person, very introverted, but when it comes to competing, getting the best grades in class, you know, getting girls, whatever, he's always going to be one to compete, and especially when it comes down to that basketball, he's definitely a competitor.
Westbrook received his first recruiting letter the summer before his senior year, and he eventually chose to attend UCLA, one of the first schools that offered him a scholarship.
Here's a kid that, had unbelievable desire and work ethic, but, he was 5'11" as a junior. As Reggie will tell you, he couldn't dunk going into his junior year, in the beginning of his junior year. And here's a kid that is one of the greatest slam dunk performers in all of basketball. He's a kid that grew late, in other words. He ended up coming into UCLA at 6'1.5". And left at 6'4", came in 175, left at 200. So he was a guy that, I think he started college at age 17. But there's no question that he was a kid that was not on many people's radars and just blew up. And then when he really, made huge strides was between his freshman and sophomore year in college that summer.
I definitely feel proud when I watch Russell. To know that I saw him at such an early age and his development and turn into the player he is today and be one of the best players in the world, it's just unbelievable that the little kid that I knew that rode in my car and I shared hamburgers and stuff with is now, one of the best players, and I'm real proud.
The first advice I give is to do good in school, and then, think about school, think about basketball and, things off the floor, and just take care of, your schoolwork and then go from there.
This special feature was brought to you by Old Spice. Spray goodbye to boyhood and smelcome to manhood.
He was the two-time Bay League MVP, but, he may be a little more proud of that 2017 MVP for the NBA. You could just see that explosive speed when he was in high school. And that's why when I saw him a couple of times, I said, yeah, he's a good basketball player, but geez, he looks like he would run like the 100 or do a long jump that would be out of this world.
Yeah, he was never short on speed, but, in the NBA, it's a big deal to go between 6'1" and 6'4".
Yeah.
Even at point guard, because you're matching up against guys who are just gazelles. But it's nice to see him progress. And in fact, about 3 months ago, I bought a car from Russell Westbrook Dodge over here in the Valley in Van Nuys. And so the showroom there is replete with a lot of his photos from college and the pros. I don't know if there's any Lusinger swag there, but at least UCLA and the NBA are represented.
You bought a car from the guy and you couldn't get him to come on this show, Jake?
I didn't meet him. Apparently he doesn't come by too often, but it's the middle of basketball season.
Lusinger, I like always enjoy going to that campus because they're one of the few places in the world that can put up the Olympic rings, because that campus, I think, was used in the 1932 Los Angeles Olympic Games, maybe for like rifle shooting or something along those lines, maybe archery or something.
Oh, wow.
And then they've been allowed to call themselves the Olympians and put the rings up, and you just don't get to see that very many places.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, you know, I like you, I grew up here in LA and worked as an usher at the '84 Olympics. My dad always used to tell me about the '32 Olympics, and I'm stoked to see it come back for '28. And you know, every time it's new and improved. So 28 is a long time away, but it'll be fun when it comes around.
Reggie Morris, his coach, talked about, who was the other pro that was on his team? Was it Darren Wright or Darrell Wright?
Darrell Wright.
Darrell.
Russell Westbrook grew up in the shadow of Hollywood.
Did you also watch him at that time?
No, and I didn't see Westbrook play in high school either. This was another kind of retroactive story that Max Preps commissioned for this Old Spice series. And again, I had to say that tagline, and I'm sorry in advance.
But it's too good. We got a Casablanca and a Gilbert's Indio tagline that we've pushed into the, the social culture. So
right. I was just going to tell you that you would have fun if you can track him down doing a high school show with Reggie Morris Jr. and Sr. And Reggie Jr. was in my piece, and he and his dad are the only father-son combo to coach teams to state championships in the state of California.
Oh, wow.
So his dad coached manual arts in 1988.
Sure.
And I think his best player there was Dwayne Poley.
Dwayne Poley. I remember Dwayne Poley well, but was it as late as 88?
I think so.
Dwayne Poley, I could have swore was like late 70s or something, but
could be right about that.
Yeah.
And then Reggie with Reggie Jr. with Redondo Union in like 2012 or 2013.
Yep.
So that'd be a fun hour to pit father against son, trading jabs and exploits. Apparently, dad has spent some time on son's bench as kind of like an unpaid volunteer assistant.
That's cool.
But yeah, that will be fun. It's a story I've wanted to do and never got around to doing it.
The final player, Jake, I know you got some fun stories about, is Jared Goff. You went up and got this interview, put in a little extra work on it. So let's take a look at Jared Goff, the quarterback who took my Rams to the Super Bowl. Hopefully we'll get back there again soon enough. And but he comes out of Marin Catholic up there, up north.
Northern California is home to some of our country's greatest minds. The Bay Area is the cradle of a melting pot that has produced a diversity of talent in all walks of life. Steve Jobs, Robert Frost, Mervyn LeRoy, and Clint Eastwood all hail from Northern California. In the sports world, there's an up-and-coming superstar who's worth keeping an eye on. This is Jared Goff. The senior quarterback from Marin Catholic in Kentfield, California just completed a standout high school career. Goff threw for 3,700 yards and 40 touchdowns and led the Wildcats football team to a record of 14-2. Stephen Travers is a highly regarded sports columnist in the Bay Area and has seen a lot of great players come and go, but points out that Goff may turn out to be the best of them all.
Jared Goff is probably one of, if not the finest and most accoladed high school athletes in the history of Marin County. Marin County is not known to produce as many prep stars as, say, Orange County or a place like Florida, but there have been some good athletes who've come out of here. Pete Carroll played here. Most notably, I would say he's the best all-around athlete to come out of the county since his own father, Jerry Goff, who was a football and baseball star out of Santa Fe High.
He's a completely different guy than I was, mentally, physically, emotionally. He's got some qualities that I wish I had when I was playing. He's able to keep things in perspective. He doesn't get too rattled, doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. And I think it's a real good attribute to have for the position that he plays.
Recently, Goff's dreams of a state title came up just short as Marin Catholic lost the state final to San Diego Madison. But it wasn't from a lack of effort. Goff accounted for all 5 of his team's touchdowns, 4 through the air and 1 on the ground. But it wasn't quite enough. That doesn't take away from a brilliant career that has earned him a scholarship to nearby Cal Berkeley. With his prep days now behind him, he'll be enrolling early to try and get a head start. And being able to get back to his parents is something to get very proud of.
My family's been doing everything for me my whole life, and for me to go out and give them the opportunity to, maybe even retire early because I get scholarship and they don't have to pay for my college. It's just great.
Our audio seemed to have disintegrated out of the vault there. Jake, it's very kind of you to take some of these vintage films you have and store them beneath the Sentinel Adobe with the rest of our vintage tapes. So I understand you put in some extra legwork to get a piece that was supposed to be in that interview that didn't make it or something.
Yeah, the day we were there was in the summer before his senior year. I want to say 2012. And he had just been here in LA at Redondo Union High School for the Elite 11 quarterback camp. It was started 10,000 years ago by Lee Steinberg, the sports agent, and now it's owned by ESPN. And it was a competition that was also a TV show or a series of TV shows on ESPN. So I had met Goff here in LA in July, and then it was running a month later. So I went up there. Timing worked out. The show's running that same night. I go to talk to him. So, when you're a reporter, sometimes you have to be a little bit forward. And I reached out to his dad and said, hey, I'd like to cordially invite myself to your screening party because I'd like to shoot a little bit of Jared watching the show. I don't need to be there long or shoot very much. I just need a little bit. And he couldn't have been more gracious. I mean, there was like 100 people in the house, a lot of his high school buddies, parents, friends, yada, yada. And they let me shoot a little bit. And I remember what I told the kids was, look at me like the nerdy kid who wants your attention and you're ignoring. And so I just shot a little bit of Jared and his buddies watching the show and was out of there. And it was a nice time. And then I did this piece for a show out of Dallas called Sports Stars of Tomorrow. And it used to be hosted by Pat Summerall till he passed away. In fact, speaking of earlier in the show, the East Bay piece that I told you about was voiced by Pat Summerall. Anyways, they made the edit decisions and they decided not to use Jared watching the show that we hustled up to his house to shoot. So it came to nothing, but it was all right. It was good to meet his dad. It was good to meet him and spend the day with him. And on that trip, they had sent me to Northern California. I also got Aaron Gordon of the Orlando Magic, who was at Archbishop Mitty in San Jose, University of Arizona. And there was a third kid from Stockton, forgotten the name of the high school, Justin Davis, who was Rams backup to Todd Gurley. He went to SC. And so I spent 3 days up there and got 3 good stories. And even Davis got to the league as a backup with the Rams. Goff is a star with the Rams, and Gordon is
that's wild.
He's probably just below all-star status with the Magic.
No doubt. Now, I know how it is when you come over to mine and Christine's house. Did the Goff family have to ask you to leave, or did you?
Because I was eating too much?
Yeah.
No, you know what? We really, for once in our lives, because I was with my pal Steve Travers, who's in that piece, the local historian. We didn't stay too long or overstay our welcome. We were kind of in and out and said thanks, and he and I went and had dinner on our own.
What's Jared's father's name now? Didn't he play in the major leagues?
Yeah, Jerry played. He really had a long cup of coffee. I think he had parts of 3 years with the Expos, Pirates, and Astros, and he was a catcher. So he was one of those kind of quadruple A players, too good for the minors, but not good enough to stay in the majors.
Right. Wow. And so we're seeing that in each of these. I think Russell Westbrook had, was it his mom that might have been on a track scholarship or something? But then you got Michael Thompson, and then you got another major leaguer right there for Goff. And so you're seeing that kind of lineage play out, but you're calling it in high school,
Yeah, it can help to have parents not just passing down their bloodlines, but also their knowledge and experience and their wisdom. I mean, I guess you can find examples to support either case, but Jared is, like a lot of parents look at their kids and say, that kid's a lot better than I ever was. And you could say in the Goff case that Jared is better than his dad, but still, both of them got to the highest level in their chosen sport.
No doubt. I didn't get to say that about my son in athletics. I realized how much better I was. But now my mom, she was outstanding in Indian leg wrestling, undefeated as I remember it, where the ladies would lock legs, and so that's probably where I got all.
And bend you into Gumby, right?
Yes, that was her game. So, Jake, I know we got much of your stuff in our vault beneath the Sentinel Adobe. Tell us who else we can look forward to. You got some really vintage stuff that you did while covering for the various shows.
Yeah, I'd like to show you the Aaron Gordon piece. I have, if I can find it, I have a thing with Carson Palmer.
Nice.
If I can find it, I have a thing with Matt Leinart. Those are the two Heisman Trophy winners that I profiled. Sometimes unleashing that material from the guys who control the media on the old high school sports show, the old LA Times high school sports show, is tough to get your hands on. So it may be that I've got to just go to my VHS personal files and hope that it doesn't have like a buzz on it and that, it's watchable. Another piece that I liked that I did was on Tony Acevedo. I've always been a water polo fan, and now my boy Charlie plays water polo. And Acevedo is simply the finest American player who's ever lived. Former captain of the U.S. national team. And I profiled him in high school at Long Beach Wilson. And he soon thereafter went off to play for Team USA at the Sydney Olympics before he ever got to Stanford. So he was the first man to ever play in the Olympics for Team USA before he was a collegiate. And, played in, I think, 5 Olympics for the U.S. and won a silver in either Beijing or London.
Nice.
I'm Facebook friends with him, and now he's retired and raising his kids. But when you watch that piece when he was, 17 years old, you just realize that he's a man playing with boys. And, again, he had a dad who played water polo in the Olympics for Brazil. And,
love it.
So the father and son angle, and his dad was his coach. So I think that's a fun story to have a look at. And it's water polo, which you don't see very much of on TV.
I think I also saw something in there where I don't know if he was still in high school or transitioning into. We did an interview with Kobe. Was it before he got to the right? It was in between high school and the pros, maybe, or maybe
I think I can answer yes both ways there, because it was the high school sports show that I was working on, and they sent me to Staples to talk to Kobe about a more broad story they were doing on guys who jumped straight to the league from high school back before you had to spend a year. Back then, you could go straight to the league. And I think they were talking to Kevin Garnett and I think Tracy McGrady and Dwight Howard. They talked to a few guys at that time who had gone straight to the league, and Kobe was one of them. And I have about a 2 or 3 minute file of raw footage of me talking to Kobe in the locker room. And the best answer he had was the last one, where I said, how would it have been different if you went to college? And he says, I would have won a couple national titles at Duke. And he walked out of the frame.
Nice. Yes, he would have. I think he would have. He was pretty strong coming right out of the gate. All right, Big Game, you're the man. I know we got more stuff from you. You joined the illustrious ranks of Randy Rosenblum and Eric Sondheimer as a guest of honor on this Wednesday high school to Olympian show. And maybe one of these days we get all three of you on the same show. And so let's do this again soon.
All right, and you'll have to play the game when you have me, Randy, and Eric on, like who plays us in the movie.
Oh, yeah. I got it's not bad. Yeah, actually, I'm going to cut a movie with you guys. So let's work on that behind the scenes. All right. Thanks, Big Game.
Good to see you as always.
You know what? I had the inclination. Christine had the idea to wipe them, like just swipe them off the show. But we save that for the Friday show. And it's going to be interesting when I have a Super Bowl champion that's 4 times as big as me on Friday. How we pull that one off. Dan Coonan, easy. All right. Great. I hope you enjoyed that. Every now and again, we like to dive in and see what these stars look like when they're still in high school, because that's what we celebrate on this show, high school to Olympians. All right, thanks. Remember, tomorrow Wayne Boley 3 drops, and then Friday Great show. Kunin and Abadejo. Wow, look at me. Abadejo. No, that's going to be a fun show. All right, get your Casablanca. Enjoy. We'll see you here Friday. Check out our YouTube channel for Wayne Bowley number 3 tomorrow.
Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is supported by the AAU. Find a local event and join at aausports.org. And remember, you can catch your favorite amateur sports live stream, replays, and highlights at ballertv.com. Sports Stories, along with East Bay, supports the Heroes Movement, a nonprofit that bridges the gap from mental or physical therapy to getting strong again through strength and conditioning workouts. This free service is available for any veteran of the United States Armed Forces. Visit heroesmovementusa.org for more information. Sports Stories, along with thousands of people across the country, also supports the My Stuff Bags Foundation, a nonprofit that provides traumatized children with new belongings and new hope. Learn more at mystuffbags.org. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is a production of Sports Stories, Inc. and is available on Apple Podcasts and YouTube or wherever you listen and watch. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and give us a review. It really helps spread the word. You can find all our social media links, archives, and other info on our website at sportsstoriespodcast.com. Special thanks to the John R. Wooden Course and Wooden's Wisdom. Original music for Sports Stories is courtesy of Lennon Music Productions. Original images by Sienna Lennon Photography. Sports Stories is produced by Christine Jimbo and Marley Rice. Sports Stories is edited by Bob McCall. Additional staff include Ray Castro, Teresa Dolan, Jake Downey, Carlos Haro, and Buck Magic Lennon.
Bernie, calm down. Well, it seems to me you lived your life like the candle in the wind, always watching Sports Stories to the very end. Well, I would have liked to have known you, but I was just a kid. Your candle burned out long before Sports Stories ever did. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon. Catch it at 5. I catch it across the pond.
Kick it out, Book!
Yeah, kick it out. Kick it out. Yeah, buddy. Way to kick it out. Good job.